is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Saturday edition of the Stochastic NHL Strategy Show. I'm your host, Josh Harris. Took a little day off yesterday. The GPPs were kind of not ideal. We had some errands to run anyway, so we got those done. We're back at it here. I was looking forward to breaking down a 7-game slate, and then DraftKings was like, you know what? We're going to include the 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. Eastern games here. Now it's an 11-game slate. That locks at 5 p.m. Eastern, so while this still isn't a live before lock is much earlier here tonight. The games they added, honestly, aren't terrible. So it is what it is. But joining me to break it down, Slim Cliffy. How you dealing with the Line A news?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't look to have a big role with the Habs this year. He still got to kind of feel bad for the guy. Like it's just one injury after another, and obviously spent some time in the player assistance program as well. It just seems like he just can't get on track. Really sucks. It also sucks it's an Olympic year. The best case scenario is he's back at the end of January. Olympics start like a week or two later. Like he's probably not going to be on the Finnish team. So sucks for him. Hopefully he can come back, be rested and ready to go for the stretch run. 11 games on the board here tonight. We have a rematch. Buffalo and Toronto are having a home and home. Buffalo won 5-3 last night in Buffalo. They're in Toronto tonight. So a lot of, I'd say, important injury news. We'll get to them game by game, but there's important returns, there's important injuries, and that's why, I don't mind the games that they added to the slate. Just in a nutshell, like Anaheim, Tampa looks like should be a really good game. Buffalo, Toronto, hopefully the Leafs lose again. Vegas, Florida certainly should be a good game. Like Utah, Minnesota, like those are good games. It just sucks because there's so much injury news that we might not at least for a couple of the big ones, they're early games, but for some of the later ones, we're not going to get them in time for lock. So it kind of sucks in that sense. And you hate to have to constantly check Twitter on a Saturday night, for 4 hours in a row. But that's the slate DK gave us. So we can only work with what we got. So let's get through these 11 games here.
Yeah, the Blue Jays did win last night. They have aura. The Leafs could never.
Think of the Jays. Game 7, Vlad walks in with an Austin Matthews jersey and they win. Last night, Drake is at the game and they pound the Dodgers 11-4. Like, they're just breaking all the curses. It's incredible.
Yeah. It would be great if the Leafs just flat out miss the playoffs, but if they do make it, hope they get swept in the first round because, I want to see Marner win a cup and the Leafs not make it. That would just be chef's kiss. But anyway, enough about my wildest fantasies. Let's get into this slate. 11 gamer. We'll start it off with a Super Bowl for Frostback. The Ducks with a 2.8 total heading into Tampa Bay. The Lightning have a 3.7. We don't have Kreider news. It's not an injury. He was sick. He missed 2 games. We won't know, I would assume, until 4:30 p.m. Eastern. If he's in, I would imagine that just means Cutter slides down with McTavish. Vetrano slides up with Granlund. Doesn't change the analysis too much other than Kreider will certainly help on the power play. It's still not the Ducks, as we have it in the top stacks and what they ran without Kreider is Carlson, Gauthier, Killorn, McTavish, Seneca, Vetrano, Granlund, Terry, Nesterenko, Tampa going Kucherov, Gensel, Point, Hagel, Cirelli, Gonsalves. Now, Hagel and Gord didn't practice yesterday. The team said it was body maintenance. They had an optional this morning, so we don't know about either of those two. I would imagine they play, but we just won't know. It's the first game locking, so it's fine. Also, Vasilevsky was on the ice for optional, which leads beat writers to believe it is going to be Jonas Johansson in that. Now, if Cirelli does play, it does kind of take me out on Carlson, Gauthier, Killorn, just because, yes, Tampa hasn't been very good defensively to start this season. But historically, Cirelli and Hagel have been very, very good. We'll have to wait and see if he's in. If he is, I will push down to McTavish, Seneca, Vetrano, 13,800, 0.9% projected ownership. Obviously, with Kreider, if Kreider's in, those lines will change, but we'll see. McTavish would probably be with Seneca and Gauthier. That would be a line of interest for me. As Jake just let us know, he is running an update with some of these new lines that just came out. So, if Hagel's in, I would have some interest in a McTavish-Seneca line. 11-game slate on the road. Not ideal. Yes, Jonas Johansson's in net. You can have some Ducks here. I'm not super, super high on them. I'm more in on the Tampa side here. But price is a problem, right? They re-engaged Kucherov, Gensel, Point, which is another reason why I would like the McTavish line, because they just get run over all the time. But from an offensive standpoint, that price is just a little bit too much here. As Cliffy keeps saying, like, Anaheim just could be a better team than they were last year. It's not a wild stretch to believe that. And at 22,700, they do have pretty much a 30% top two with 12.7% projected ownership, which is really good positive leverage. I just don't think on this slate, with the amount of good lines in the mid-range, and we'll obviously get there, I don't know if I want to spend 22,700 on the slate. Obviously, a Kucherov one-off always in play. If you want to play them in MME, you certainly can make that decision for yourself. In single entry, I'm probably passing on Tampa 1 because of the price. Tampa 2 would interest me more if Hagel's in. Cirelli, Hagel, Gonsalves, 13,200. 12.4% projected ownership, though. They're fine. I just, at that ownership, I'll just go play Tampa 1, but I don't want to pay that price for them. I prefer Tampa 1. It's just a price thing for me. So that Ducks second line interests me. Even if Hagel's in or out, the top line for Tampa is just too expensive for me in single entry. But I think with that positive leverage, they're a very good MME play.
Yeah, for me, I agree with you on Tampa 1, 22,700. I usually just won't spend that on a slate this big. If it was 6 or 7 games, then we can talk. A slate this large, I think it's a pass for me. Tampa 3 is honestly what's kind of interesting to me here. Now, that's assuming Yanni Gourde plays. As you said, Gourde wasn't at practice yesterday. They did say it was maintenance. We've always, we've seen teams say that a guy is out for maintenance and then he misses a week. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you can't trust the teams. But, Gourde and Bjorkstrand on the ice together this season, 2.5 expected goals for, 1.8 against. Like, they're actually creating pretty well. They're going to get, depth matchups from the Ducks. And like, if you look at the Ducks, like, their third and fourth lines are generating well offensively, but they're trading chances, like the absolute definition of trading chances at 8,500. Like, that's a pretty cheap stack. If you are playing expensive players elsewhere, we'll talk about Toronto, certainly Edmonton later in the slate. I don't mind Tampa 3 here. I'm going to be honest. I mean, Hagel, Cirelli, Gonsalves is perfectly fine. But I'm not paying for Tampa 1 and be more about the depth. I'm kind of in a little bit more on the Anaheim side. The thing with Tampa is, like, they don't rely on the power play, but they get a lot of production out of their power play. The Ducks are the least penalized team in the NHL this season. They are not taking penalties. It's only been 8 games. We'll see what it looks like after like 18 games, but like, don't imagine they're going to go from one of the least penalized teams to one of the most penalized teams like they had been for the last couple of years. So, if Tampa only gets like a couple power plays, do I want to pay nearly 23K for the top lines? Like, no, like, I'd rather go to the Anaheim side. If Kreider's in, I honestly don't have a problem going with Kreider, Carlson, Killorn. I would have more interest in the second line if we know Kreider's in and Cutter Gauthier playing with McTavish and Seneca, because that lines look like, pardon my French, that lines look like dog shit with Vetrano there. Like, terrible. I mean, like, this is the fourth line, not the second line type stuff. And I do think they need Cutter Gauthier back there. So if Cutter's in, then I would have interest in McTavish, Seneca, and Cutter Gauthier. Otherwise, like going to Granlund, Terry, Nestorenko, I think makes some sense here. They're going to avoid Hagel Sorelli. At 11K, they're a filler if you need a filler. And they are also creating pretty well offensively so far this season. Over 70 shot attempts, over 3 expected goals per 60. Now, they are trading chances, but, they can score, especially with Jonas Johansson in net. I do think the Ducks have 3 playable lines. I will say if Kreider's in, I would be in on McTavish, Seneca, Cutter Gauthier second line. If Kreider is not in and they go with the same lineup that they ran in the last couple games, then I would be in more on Granlund, Terry, and Nestorenko.
Yeah, and luckily we'll get that news before the slate locks, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. They'll hit the ice for warmups. Let's get a home and home here. Buffalo Sabres with a 3 total heading into Toronto. The Leafs have a 3.5. Nylander left last game. No idea that he's one of those injuries that we'll find out at lock if he's out. I think it was Easton Cowan who moved up in game, I think, or
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. The bigger thing is like Morgan Riley's still out, and he's their best puck mover. And like they struggled pretty badly at 5-on-5 last night. They had a power play goal. Nylander scored, and then Dakota Joshua had a late goal. But their right side with Carlo, Mermis, and Benoit doesn't exactly strike fear in any defense. So if Nylander's in, sure, you could go like Matthews, Nylander, OEL, or something like that for a power play stack. Their power play is still good. Like losing Riley hurts more at 5-on-5 than the power play because Oliver Ekman-Larsson basically is a power play quarterback in waiting. So I don't mind that, but like 20,100 with over 20% ownership for a 5-on-5 line that didn't look great last night. Nylander got hurt and they had trouble moving the puck. I'm probably out on. It would be some sort of power play stack for me from the Leafs side. On the Buffalo side, like no one's playing McLeod, Doan, and Tuck here at 15,000. Like they've played well together, and they'll see those second pairings of like Ekman-Larsson and Mermis and Philip Myers and Benoit, and like Dakota Mermis looked a lot like Logan Mailloux last night. So I don't mind going back to Tuck, McLeod, Doan here. You want to go to Kulik, Benson, Thompson, that's also fine. 17,400. I'd be more likely to take the savings there. You get Doan on the top power play unit, and he is important to that top power play. You want to go top line, fine. But Doan, McLeod, Tuck for me. Even don't mind Ostlund, Quinn, Zucker at 10,600, especially if you're doing like Tampa stacks or power play stacking Edmonton or something like that. That third line is only 10,600. And, Jack Quinn can't stop a nosebleed defensively, but he has looked good offensively to start the season. Zucker's on the top power play. So I'm not saying run out and go play Buffalo 3, but if you need a cheap filler, I don't mind them.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say what to do with Toronto until we know what Nylander is doing. Because, like, I'm going to be honest, like, if they're down Nylander, plus we've seen what the power plays look like without Marner, plus no Morgan Riley, so they're down to basically one guy who can move the puck, maybe two if you count Philippe Myers. I don't know, man. I just really don't have a lot of faith. I guess if Nylander's in, I don't mind going back to Toronto 1. It's just hard to say like whether to play them or not because we don't know if Nylander's going to be in. Like we'll talk about Minnesota in a second. Like Minnesota isn't that much more expensive, $1,800 more. Like Montreal 1, we'll talk about them in a second. They're $100 cheaper. Like it feels weird. Like this is the third week of the season. And I'm like, you know what? I don't have interest in the Leafs at home to the Sabres, but I really don't have interest in the Leafs at home to the Sabres, at least like not full stacking any of the top lines. We'll talk about defensemen at the end. And I do think maybe there's some value on the blue line, but as far as their forwards go, like, I don't know, man, I'm kind of out. For me, it's more about the Buffalo side. Like, I do like that Tuck McLeod Doan combination. I do think it's kind of like Tuck and Doan carrying McLeod. Like, McLeod really hasn't looked good. Like, I've watched a couple Sabres games, I guess only 2, so I don't want to be like slam the guy too hard, but he hasn't looked good in the couple games that I watched. Like, Thompson, Benson, and Kulich, like, whatever else we want to say about them, going back to last year, they've been pretty good offensively. About 210 minutes together going back to last year, 64 shot attempts, 3 expected goals, 3.7 actual goals per 60. Tage Thompson, one of the biggest volume shooters in the NHL this season. Like, Zach Benson can't stop racking up assists, and he's actually got pretty good expected, like, individual expected goals shot metrics, which means he's getting off some good quality. And Yuri Kulich, like, he's one of those guys, like, he reminds me of almost like Josh Norris, which is kind of funny because he's the guy that he's replacing effectively on the top line, where, like, you put him on a third or fourth line, like, he doesn't look very good, but if you put him on a top line with talented players, like, he can finish. It's funny that they got rid of Victor Olofsson, because Yuri Kulich kind of looks like the next Victor Olofsson. You know what I mean? The guy who could score like 25 goals a season, but with some pretty suspect defense. At 17,400 at sub 1% ownership against Caden Primo, like, this Buffalo top line, like, I get that, you know, the depth lines are going to get the depth pairings from Toronto. Like, what fucking defense pair from Toronto am I scared of? Like,
they were bad with Riley. They're even worse without him.
Yeah, like, I really, you know, you get 2 out of the 3 guys on the top power play unit. I really like Thompson, Benson, and Kulich here. That's the line I have interest in. I agree with you. I do think Buffalo 2 is firmly in play. I have no interest, or I have no issue with playing them, but for me, this is a Buffalo 1 game.
Yeah. Vegas, the Golden Knights with a 3 total heading into Sunrise, Florida. The Panteras have a 3 total as well. Florida just doing stuff with their lines, searching for combos here, I think. They're going Reinhart, Verhaeghe, Rodriguez, Marchand, Lundell, Luosterainen, Bennett, Samoskevich, Boquist. Vegas still, obviously, Stone went on IR. He's going to be week to week. Or he went on long-term IR, so he has to miss at least 10 games. They're going Eichel, Barbashev, Saad, Dorofeyev, Marner, Hurdle, Carlson, Smith, Holtz. It's like, I'm not sure what to make of these Florida lines. And outside of the Marchand, Lundell, Luosterainen line, I don't have faith that they're going to stick together if they come out poorly. Yeah, Quinn Skalid. Pretty nasty KO there over Nasrat Hakparast. Names are just killing me. But anyway, I feel like the Rodriguez line and the Bennett line are just going to be mix and matched if they're not having a great game here. I don't mind the combo of Bennett Samoskevich at 11,400. But, like, this is just not a great matchup for Florida. Like, Vegas, even without Stone, they're still pretty good defensively. Obviously, they have some issues in net. It's probably, I think it's Akira Schmid in net tonight, but I'm kind of mum on full stacking Florida. Obviously, if you want to, like, one-off some guys like Verhaeghe or Samoskevich or Marchand, I think that's fine. But full stacking, I'm not super interested. On the Vegas side, like, I don't mind Eichel line at 14.8. I think you can use them in, like, mid-range builds. They're almost cheap enough to be a filler, but they've been together for a few games now. So I do have some confidence that they'll at least get some leash if they come out poorly. I prefer Hurdle, Marner, Dorofeyev, but the problem is at 19,300, like, it's kind of a tough price on the road in Florida. You have, you know, Pitt 1 we'll talk about. Carolina's right there. Montreal's, you know, not much more expensive. And then you have a bunch of cheaper lines in the 15, 16K range that, like, I don't almost want to spend 20,000 on a quote-unquote second line. They'll obviously play their minutes, but it's not the best matchup for me. If anything, I would full stack that line, but I'm more MME from this game.
Yeah. On the Florida side, like if you look at Reinhardt's season, like obviously he hasn't been hugely productive, but they're still generating well when he's on the ice. Like I was looking at his numbers without Sam Bennett, like whether it's been with Rodriguez or Lundell at center, whomever. 66 shot attempts, 3 expected goals per 60 minutes. Reinhardt individually is at 1.9 expected goals per 60 minutes. Like, you know, I think he scored, what was it, on Thursday night? Like, it feels like he's just on the edge of, or on the precipice of kind of breaking out. Is it going to happen against Vegas? Like, I don't know. Like, Vegas, it's not the best matchup for Florida. You know, it's not like Vegas has been a great defensive team, but they've certainly been good. The goaltending's held up well enough, especially with Hayden Hill out. So, like, I mean, I guess I think for me with Florida, I agree with you. It'd be Marchand, Lundell, Luostarinen would be the full stack. I don't mind one-offing Sam Reinhart or one-offing Evan Rodriguez or something like that here. Reinhart at 6,500, I think that's an appropriate price for him, you know, without Barkov, without Tkachuk. Like the Florida power play, we talked about it, I think, on Thursday. It's been a lot better since they got rid of that 3-4-2 defenseman setup. Since they added Samoskevich and took off Ekblad, that Florida top PP unit has added 35% to their shot attempt total. Like that's a lot. That's a huge improvement. So like a one-off Reinhart, I think makes a lot of sense. One-off Samoskevich at 3,500, I think makes a lot of sense if you need a cheap punt. But for me, it's more of a Vegas game. I'm not in on the Eichel line. Like, I don't mind Brandon Saad. Like, I am a fan of him. I think he should be on a third line, not a top line. So it would be Dorothy of Marner and Hurdle, but I agree with you at 19,300. It's a tough ask. What I'm wondering is, who is Florida going to send out Forsling and Ekblad against? Is it going to be the Eichel line, or is it going to be Marner, Hurdle, Dorofeev? Like, I think it's still going to be Eichel, which is why I do have a little bit of interest in that Hurdle line. And at 19,300, they are expensive. Well, there's one line later that's right in that price range that I think I would rather play, but I would certainly rather play them over Toronto. And we'll talk about Carolina in a second. I would probably play them over Carolina as well. So if you don't want to spend all the way up for Tampa or Minnesota and you're looking to play an expensive line, I think that Dorofeev, Marner, Hurdle line still makes sense. But in general, I'm not too huge on stacking either side here. And I think it'd be more like if I have the salary, a one-off Reinhart, I think is fine at 6,500. And if I need like a punt type player, Mackie Samoskevich at 3,500 makes a lot of sense as well.
Yep. Utah Mammoth with a 2.9 total heading into Minnesota. The Jake Harries have a 3 total. They're going Kaprizov, Boldy, Eriksson, Ek. We forgot to shout out Jake, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. He shipped the 15, the 5, and the Minimax last night. You know, sometimes we forget. That's what happens. But last year he had a ton of top 1% finishes and just ran poorly. This year he's getting variance back on his side, so congrats. He won the 15, the 5, and the 1 in that lineup for like 12,000 and change. I put in my notice for a raise. Still haven't heard from him. He's ignoring me, but you know, it is what it is. But congrats to Jake. Last night, maybe the luck will start trickling down the tree to us here tonight. Anyway, Utah Mammoth 2.9 total, Minnesota 3 total. Minnesota going Kaprizov, Boldy, Eriksson, Ek, Rossi, Tarasenko, Marcus Johansson, Hartman, Foligno, Trenin. Utah going Keller, Schmaltz, Hayton, Genther, Cooley, Peterka. Utah's top 6 is so much fun. Minnesota's top 6 is not so much fun. They're not. They have a good power play. It has slowed down here. Like Minnesota's kind of in that Tampa 1 basket for me. They're 21,900 with 19.6% top 2 stack, 6% projected ownership, and arguably a worse matchup than Tampa. Now they are fully correlated. They're $800 cheaper. I'll never say no to a Kaprizov one-off. I'm almost to the point where I'll almost never say no to a Boldy one-off if he's on that line. Like, he's had a ridiculous start to that season. I just don't know if I'm going to full stack them. If I'm not going to spend 22.7 for Tampa 1, I don't think I'm going to spend 21.9 for Minnesota here. It's not the best 5-on-5 matchup. Decent power play matchup, but it's not like it's a smash spot. They are only coming in with 6% ownership. So if you want to take a stance in MME, I think that's fine. The second line of Rossi, Tarasenko, Johansson at 9,700 is only interesting because of the price. Also, Rossi and Johansson have pretty good numbers together. I'm not sure how that's going to work with Tarasenko, but if you need a super cheap second line, they're at least playable. My interest is more on the Utah side. Listen, like, Minnesota is very good at 5-on-5 defensively. They still have an atrocious penalty kill. So it would be some sort of power play stack for me. Do like Cooley, Genther, Schmaltz, or if you want to go expensive, Cooley, Genther, Keller, something like that. It does feel kind of chasey to chase Cooley's, game that they had the other night at like, he was like 1% or something like that. But like they're coming in projected at like 2.3%. Cooley is an up and coming, very good player. So it's not like chasing like a Ben Jones hat trick or something like that. So like, I think it'd be some sort of Utah power play stack for me. Don't mind Minnesota 1, but again, in single entry, the price is just too much for me.
Yeah. The Minnesota top line, I imagine, is going to be used in the shutdown role. And I mean, going back to last year, as long as Eriksson's been there, as you mentioned, really good defensively, 47 shot attempts against, 1.9 expected goals against per 60. So, if you do want to put in Keller and Schmaltz in Hayton or something like that, it's more for the power play. And if you're doing it more for the power play, then I do think you should try to get at least one of Genther or Cooley in there. And it is a good power play matchup. Utah's drawing a ton of power plays this year. They're at 3.9 power play opportunities per game. It's tied for the 7th most in the league. Now, the power play hasn't been like great or anything, but if there's ever a get right spot, it's against the Minnesota Wild because, this was a bad penalty kill last season. This season they're bottom 10 by goals against per 60, bottom 5 by shot attempts against per 60, bottom 10 by expected goals against per 60. Like, this is a bad penalty kill again. So I wouldn't be as keen, as you mentioned, as stacking an even strength stack. If you want to do like Keller, Schmaltz, Genther, Keller, Schmaltz, Cooley, Cooley, Genther, Keller, like something like that. Like, Nick Schmaltz is still shooting the puck quite a bit. I genuinely wonder how long that's going to last because there's too long of a history there of him really not being a shooter. Clayton Keller's only at 7.4 shot attempts per 60 at 5-on-5. So, like, I would probably lean Schmaltz, but I do think some sort of Utah power play stack, a broken stack across the top two lines is where my interest is. On the Minnesota side, like, I don't know, man. Like, Utah's looked really good defensively so far this season. Second fewest shot attempts against per 60 at 5-on-5. Fewest shot attempts against per 60 at 5-on-5 in the league. And, it's not like they've just been playing a lot of terrible teams. Like, yeah, they had Chicago and San Jose, but they've also had Colorado twice, St. Louis, Nashville, for whatever that's worth. At least they shoot the puck sometimes. Like, I don't know, man. Utah's look pretty good at 21,900. I just think I'd rather go play Tampa. I really would. I know they're more expensive. I'd rather play Tampa than Minnesota in these matchups here tonight. On top of that, I'd rather save the money. And if I'm playing an expensive line, like, I'll go play, Montreal, Carolina, Vegas, something like that. So I'm pretty much out on Minnesota here. I don't think that second line is going to be good with Tarasenko there. I think they're trying to force him to work on the second line top power play because if it doesn't work, where are you going to put him? You know what I mean? He can't play on the top line, and he's not going to play on the third line with like Marcus Foligno. They're kind of boned there. So for me, this is a Utah game, and it's focusing mostly on the power play guys.
Yep, we got an update from Jake. right before the game that needed the update the most, and I'm very mad about. And so let's talk about it. St. Louis Blues. Fucking Jim Montgomery. 3 total. Heading into Detroit, the Red Wings also have a 3 total. Travis Hamonic is back in the lineup for the Wings. I was very excited to play the Blues. And then Jim Montgomery went and did this. The Blues are going to be going Thomas Neighbors Snuggerud, Shen Kairu Joseph, Buchnevich Suter Nathan Walker, who's a crocodile hunter in the offseason. And then Holloway is on the 4th line with someone named Oscar and Nick Bukestad. Like, Detroit has one good pair, and it's Moritz Seider. And now they're going to go out. They're going to be stapled to Thomas Neighbors Snuggerud. Now, I wanted to play the depth of St. Louis here because they had some decently sexy combos. And now, what do you do? Like, in theory, I like Suter and Buchnevich, but like Nathan Walker has been a 4th liner his whole life. He doesn't have the skill to hang with either of these guys. Why is Dylan Holloway on the 4th line? I don't know. It's like, what exactly do you do here? And I think like a 2-man is Suter Buchnevich, I guess, is fine. If you want to go to Thomas Neighbors Snuggerud at $12,900, I think that price is fine. But like that line hasn't been great, and Robert Thomas isn't shooting the puck. And they're going to see their only pair worth a damn in the game. So like Jim Montgomery has taken me off the Blues. He's taken everyone off the Blues. The projected ownership on these lines are just not great. I guess like you could go Shen and Kairu. You could go Suter and Buchnevich. It's like now it's like Walmart Dallas, where like you get 2 guys that are kind of playable and awful third wheels. So like you could go Shen and Kairu. You could go Suter and Buchnevich, but I don't want to full stack anything on the Blues side. On the Detroit side, the only line of interest to me would be Casper, Raymond, DeBrincat. I know the last time we absolutely like nailed Mason Appleton to a wall, he came out and scored. But like, I have no interest in that Larkin, Finney, Appleton line. If you want to one-off Raymond or take off Casper and add in Larkin for a power play stack, because the Blues penalty kill is an abomination, I think that is the way to go. But from a full stacking standpoint, the only line that interests me in this game is Detroit 2.
Yeah, this is tough, man. If you look at the power plays, the power play combinations, they have one guy on the top power play unit on each of their 4 lines. That's just not ideal. I know why Jim Montgomery is doing this. Obviously, the Blues haven't been off to a great start. I keep repeating it. Logan Mailloux is -9 at 5-on-5 in 5 games.
In like 14 minutes of ice time total.
Like I don't want to belabor this point too much, but I wrote about it over the summer. Like Justin Falk might be completely cooked. They're relying on Tyler Tucker and Matthew Kessel and Logan Mailloux and Justin Falk. Like 3 of those 4 guys are going to be in the lineup every game. None of them might be NHLers at this point. So you're relying on half your blue line. I'd say at least 2 of them shouldn't be in the NHL, if not all 3. And I don't say that flippantly. I mean that seriously. Like 3 of those 6 guys on that blue line probably shouldn't be in the NHL. And you're relying on them game in and game out. Of course, your team's not going to look great. They have to overhaul that. And it's funny when you think about it because they struck gold with Broberg. Cam Fowler completely revived his career. Imagine if those 2 things didn't work out, this would be a lottery team. So, you only have like 8 defensemen you can work with. You're not going to break up Fowler and Parayko. That's your shutdown pairs. You can only shuffle the deck chairs on the Titanic so much. So what do? You nuke your forward lines to make it look like you're trying to do something. Anyways, it's frustrating because none of these lines are really playable. I would probably go to Suter, Buchnevich, and Walker. Like, Walker's not a great offensive player. At least he's good defensively, right? So maybe he can turn some puck overs. Maybe he can, get the puck to Suter and Buchnevich so that they can get up the ice and create a little bit offensively. You know, they're going to see the depth from Detroit. The Detroit second pair is getting ran over defensively. The Edvinsson, Sandin, Palika pairing. And then we know what Travis Hamonic will bring on the third pair. And that's somehow something worse than what, you know, will happen with the St. Louis third pair. So it's a pretty good matchup for Suter, Buchnevich, and Walker. 10,100. They're a filler stack. They get one correlated goal. You're probably fine. If they somehow get two, then you're really in business. Suter's looked great this year. He's driven positive results on every line he's been on, and that's with playing with the depth defensemen that are pretty brutal. So that's the line I would go to. Other than that, like if you want a one-off Snuggerud, I think that's the only other thing that really interests me because at least he's shooting the puck. This is frustrating, man. I was really looking forward to playing St. Louis, and then this is a complete disaster. On the Detroit side, like I probably don't have a ton of interest in Larkin, Finney, Appleton, 13,800, mainly because I think they'll run into that one good St. Louis defense pair. And if you can go up against Justin Falk or Tyler Tucker or whomever on those second and third pairs, I think that's where you want to go. So it'd be DeBrincat, Raymond, and Casper for me. Alex DeBrincat, he's over 20 shot attempts per 60 so far this season. Over 1.8 expected goals per 60 this season, and he hasn't scored yet. Those are really high shot volume and shot quality numbers. I feel like he's got it, that dam has got to break eventually. You get DeBrincat and Raymond on the top power play unit. You know, DeBrincat and Casper played well together going back to last year. I think it's the DeBrincat, Raymond, Casper line I have interest in. Like, honestly, that's the line of any of the lines in this game that I would probably full stack, but I really don't have interest in Detroit. I have more interest in St. Louis because I do think that's a bad Detroit blue line, but it's like, how good is the St. Louis blue line now? I don't know. Suter, Buchnevich, Walker, DeBrincat, Raymond, Casper. Let's get to the next game because my blood pressure just is completely spiking.
Yeah, and we're the same age, and we're getting advanced. You know, we're getting to the points like you need an EKG if you're getting fired up, and we can't get that fired up anymore. Columbus Blue Jackets. Let's go talk about our Columbus Blue Jackets, shall we? 3.2 total heading into Schittsburg. The Penguins have a 3.3 total. Pittsburgh going Crosby, Rust, Raquel, Malkin, Mantha, Wayne Gretzky, Hollander, Novak, Tomasino. Columbus going Marchenko, Monahan, Voronkov, Fantilli, Jenner, Johnson. I'll stop there. Back-to-back on the road for Columbus. They were competitive with Washington for 2 periods, and then Jack Reeves forgot how to save a puck, which won Jake Harry some money, and he's in chat for the first time in a while. He's feeling better. He was under the weather this week. Glad to see. Nothing $12,000 can't fix. Am I right? But it is a back-to-back on the road, but Pittsburgh is awful defensively. That Crosby, Rust, Raquel line going to see a fair bit of that Monahan, Marchenko, Voronkov line with a lot of Werenski, and Crosby line at the best of times is not good defensively. They're 15,500 with 6.9% projected ownership. It is almost fate. I do really like Columbus 1 here at that price. It's a mid-range line that I do really like. The Blues top line before they mixed it up was 16K. I had a lot of interest there. I do like Columbus 1 here. Columbus 2, like, they've been playing fine. It's just, you know, no top power play time for Fantilli is kind of a drag. Like, if you want to add in Kent Johnson something or one-off Kent Johnson, I think that's fine. I wish they would move up Yegor Chinnikov and have him play more than 9 minutes. But, you know, it is what it is. So it really would be only Columbus 1 for me. On the flip side, Pittsburgh 1 is only 17,700 here, and the ownership reflects that. They're 21.8% projected. Like, the problem here, besides the ownership, is Columbus 1 has been very, not like elite defensively, but it's like their only good ish defensive line. They go out a lot of the time with Werenski, which always helps. I honestly think if you consider price, you consider ownership, I prefer the Columbus side. Now, Columbus has been awful defensively. Their penalty kill has been bad. They're back-to-back. They have Merzlikins in net. So, like, I think Pittsburgh 1 is playable. If they were, like, even, like, 13, 14% ownership projected, I'd be much more interested in them. But at 21.8%, we've never seen chalk Pittsburgh fail before, you know what I mean? I'd just go to that second line of Malkin, Mantha, and Brazeau, 11,800, under 2%. Like, they're still really, really good. They're up to 80 minutes. Offensive creation, goal scoring, still really good. The middle six of Columbus isn't anything to worry about. So, like, I think Pittsburgh 1 ownership agnostic is the best play on Pittsburgh, obviously. But if you take ownership, price, all that into account, I'm going to go to Pitt 2 and Columbus 1 here.
Yeah, I mean, I do like Pittsburgh 1. It's just a matter, do you want to play a line that's at 20 to 25%? That's kind of the only issue. They're also not drawing a ton of power play opportunities. That's another thing, is like top power plays look fine for the Penguins, but they're at the 3rd lowest rate of power play opportunities per game. At 17,700, it's not a big deal. It's not like this line is 20,500 or something like that. They don't, like, if they go 1 for 2 on the power play, like, they'll probably be fine. So, like, I don't have any real issues playing Pittsburgh 1. Their offensive numbers still don't look great underneath. Like, with Brian Rust there, they're only at 58 shot attempts and 2.4 expected goals per 60. None of them are above 15 shot attempts per 60 on the season. That's, that'd be about a borderline first line rate. None of them are above that. Like, I get, like, they're still scoring goals. Feel like that well's going to dry up unless they actually start playing better. Like I don't have any problem playing Pittsburgh. Do you want to play them at 20 to 25% ownership or not? I usually don't, but with a top 2 stack at nearly 20%, I do think that you have to at least consider them. I do have more interest in the Columbus side. I think both their top 2 lines are perfectly fine here. Marchenko, Monahan, Voronkov, 15,500, perfectly correlated. My issue is, like, they don't get a ton of minutes. Voronkov will be like 16, maybe 17 at the most. Monahan and Marchenko, like 18, maybe 19 if you're lucky. That's the one thing that kind of sucks. But, these guys are creating well offensively again this season. 76 shot attempts per 60 minutes, over 5 goals per 60 minutes, 35 shots per 60 minutes. Like, those are all excellent offensive numbers. They don't draw a lot of power play opportunities either, which sucks. But at 15,500, you don't need a ton of power play opportunities either. You mentioned Pittsburgh's defense. Like, I know Pittsburgh isn't technically giving up a ton of goals on the season, but their expected goals against numbers aren't very good. They're bottom 5 in the league. Like, they're worse than teams like Buffalo, San Jose, and Boston. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Tristan Jarry and Artur Shilovs are kind of are a big reason why the Pittsburgh Penguins have had such a great start. You can't rely on those guys to keep doing what they're doing. That's just kind of the whole thing, is like, you can't rely on these guys to put up a 935 save percentage at 5-on-5 or whatever. So for me, it's Columbus 1. I think Columbus 2 is perfectly fine at 12,900. I do wish they had more guys on the top power play unit, but at a filler stack price, 12,000, like I said, 12,900, you don't really need them to. And they've, Fantilli and Jenner, small sample, only about 40 minutes, but 76 shot attempts, 3.1 expected goals per 60. Fantilli shooting a lot again, 19 shot attempts per 60. The Malkin Brazeau line, like, still creating some offense, but their defensive numbers basically from the first game of the season have not been that good. I do think Fantilli, Jenner, and Johnson is a perfectly fine filler stack here, but this is a Columbus 1 game for me.
Yeah. Looking forward to the 1-0 shootout win for Columbus. Montreal Canadiens, they 2.9 total, heading into Vancouver. The Canucks have a 3 total. Montreal going Caulfield, Suzuki, Slavkovsky. Demidov, Kapanen, Newhook, Bolduc, Doc, Volano, and then Evans, Gallagher, Anderson. Lucas Reichel might be in the lineup. I would imagine he's in the lineup. Doesn't really matter where he's going to be. Like, I don't have a ton of interest in Vancouver. What we have for the top 6 here is Pedersen, Garland, Kane, Besser, DeBrusk, Sasson. Like, Vancouver has been awful to start the season. Like, the only Canuck that has looked good besides Quinn Hughes is Thatcher Demko. I don't think I'm going to get there in single entry, but if I'm spending $20K for a line here tonight, I think it's Montreal 1. I don't want to spend 21 and change for Minnesota. Don't really want to spend 22.7 for Tampa. It's like for 20,000 flat and under 1% ownership against a team that has been atrocious 5-on-5 this season. Like, I do have interest in Montreal 1 here. It's just one of those things. It's like when Demko's on, you don't really want to be going up against him. And $20,000 on the road is a steep price to pay. So, like, it's more MME for me. You want to dip down to some of these cheaper filler lines for Montreal. I think that's fine, especially if you're doing a Tampa stack or an Edmonton power play stack, something like that. But say Montreal 1 game for me. On the Vancouver side, it would be Sasson, DeBrusk, and Besser for me at 12,200. Like, I don't have any interest in the Pedersen line. Like, until he starts playing consistent minutes at 5-on-5, I'm out on them at 16,000. I'll take the savings at 12,200 and throw them into a basket of filler lines that I'm willing to play. I'm not going to prioritize them, but it would be the line I would play. I just, I know they have a 3 total. It's not nothing, but these lines leave a lot to be desired.
Yeah. I have no interest in Vancouver. Like, that's like, even Quinn Hughes, like, if you look at the numbers for him in Hronik, 107 minutes together at 5-on-5, the Canucks are being outshot 60-39 with those two guys on the ice. The only reason, as you mentioned, why their goal differentials or whatever look fine is Thatcher Demko. Like, that Thatcher Demko has a .950 save percentage behind Quinn Hughes. Okay, .950. Demko's been one of the top 3 or 4 goalies in the NHL to start this season, and he can be that, right? If he's healthy, he can be, one of the 5 best goalies in the league. So it's no guarantee that Montreal will fill the net, but Vancouver is not a good team. If you want to chalk it up to injuries or whatever, I mean, fine, go ahead. The only teams giving up more shots per minute at 5-on-5 than Vancouver are Anaheim and San Jose. It's not good. So I do think there's some interest in Montreal 1 here. It does. I noticed their minutes with Kirby Dach back in the lineup. We always talk about that. They weren't great in the last game. It was about, even though they were kind of chasing the game and trying to get back, eventually they got ahead of Edmonton before they blew it late. But I think they're all between like 50, all under 20 minutes. Like, Suzuki was around 19, Caulfield was around 18, Slavkovsky was around 17. Like, they play 17 to 19 minutes. Like, that's not great at 20K. That's the one thing. Like, if they were playing their, Slavkovsky at 18, 19, Caulfield around 20, and Suzuki at like 22, then we'd be kind of in business. It's just not a ton of ice time. That's the one thing that worries me, but this is a good matchup. Like, until Vancouver actually starts showing signs of life, I don't see why you wouldn't pick on them, because the only thing saving their season right now is Thatcher Demko, no one else, not even Quinn Hughes. So I do like Montreal 1. I just have minutes concerns for a line that is $20,000. So take that for what it's worth. As for the Montreal depth, like, it feels like they have a top line and 3 third lines now. Like, that's kind of the problem, is like that top line will play like I said, 17 and 19 minutes. Then every other line will all play around 13 to 14 minutes. So, like, I don't really have a ton of interest in the Montreal depth. I would probably go to the Kapanen Demidov line just because Demidov did get moved up to the top power play in the last game in Bolduc's spot. So you get one guy on the top power play unit. They do play pretty fast. So like they're not on the ice with Quinn Hughes. And like I just have visions of Kapanen just blowing right past Tyler Myers. You know what I mean? So maybe a two-man of like Kapanen, Demidov or something like that. But for me, this is a Montreal one game, and I don't have any interest in Vancouver.
Yeah, I don't know if Oliver Kapanen's going to be a second-line center in the NHL, but like him and Demidov are nasty.
It's just a ton of speed. Like they're not that good defensively, but one bobble of the puck and by the opposition, those guys are gone.
Yeah, they're like Frank Nazar right now.
Pretty much.
Oh boy, another beauty of a game. Ottawa Senators with a 2.9 total heading into Washington. The Capitals have a 3.1. Capitals won last night 5-1. It will probably be Uncle Chuck, Charlie Lindgren in net for Washington. They went Ovechkin, Strome, Beauvillier, Wilson, McMichael, LaPerriere, and then Protas, Leonard, Sordif last night. Imagine they run that back.
Well, I would say the one thing to watch for is Pierre-Luc Dubois, right? Because he had been injured, but he did have a full practice, I think, on Thursday. And then I imagine they just didn't want him to play back-to-backs this weekend, so maybe he's back in the lineup tonight. That's one of those injury things that we just won't know until warm-ups.
Yeah, that's something to keep an eye on. The Senators figured they needed more offense, so they moved Nick Cousins to the top line with Stützle and Batherson. That will fix it. Pinto, Giroux, Amadio, Cousins, Grieg, Perron. I don't have a ton of interest here in Ottawa, especially with Nick Cousins on the top line. If you want to do like a Grieg Cousins or Pinto, Giroux, have at it, Haas. I'm pretty much out on Ottawa here. On the Washington side, again, like if Pierre-Luc Dubois is still out, I don't mind McMichael Wilson. I don't mind Leonard Protas. They actually looked pretty good last night. You could go back to Strome, Ovechkin, Beauvillier at 16K. The problem that I have here is if Pierre-Luc Dubois is back in, I think you see Protas move back up to the top line. You see all these line combinations mixed up, so it's kind of a wait and see there. One off Ovechkin's fine, but I'm kind of mum on this game.
Yeah, on the Ottawa side, not really a ton of interest. This isn't a good matchup going up against the Caps. The Caps have been fine defensively this year. Talked about Ottawa and their power play without Brady Tkachuk. Now, Washington, even if they do somehow manage to start generating something or generating well on the power play, the Capitals' penalty kill has been fine, like not great, but fine. Like I just really don't have a ton of interest in the top line with Nick Cousins on it. It's kind of the thing here.
Oh,
so
really?
like. Yeah, so like maybe like a Pinto Giroux 2-man or something like that. If you want to avoid the top pairings and top matchups from Washington, but not huge on Ottawa here tonight. It is a Washington game for me. We do have to see if Pierre-Luc Dubois is back and where he would slot in. I will say the Washington top line, small sample with Beauvillier there this season, but 70 shot attempts, 4.9 expected goals per 60. They're going to see the second and third pairs from Ottawa, the defense pairs. Those are the pairs that typically aren't all that strong for the Senators. And I think that's kind of putting it a little bit mildly. Shabbat and Jensen are underwater by shot attempt share so far this season, giving up 2.8 expected goals against per 60 minutes. So like, I do think it's not a bad matchup for Ovechkin, Strome, and Beauvillier. You get Ovechkin and Strome on the top power play unit. And I think that's really where you want to attack the Sens. The Sens, their penalty kill is atrocious. If you look at the heat maps of the shots against, it looks like an absolute crime scene in front of the net. It's just red everywhere. That's not necessarily Ovechkin's spot, but like, Dylan Strome does get to the slot, certainly sets up Ovechkin. If Ottawa starts clogging the middle to try to shore that up, it would open Ovechkin on the wings. Like it's just a very, very, very poor penalty kill for the Sens. So I really do like Washington 1 year, 16K, 4.3%, top 2 stack, 3.7% ownership. I would probably throw one of the defensemen on there, either Carlson or Chikrin, just because those two are on the top power play now, as long as Pierre-Luc Dubois is out. So for me, it's the Washington 1 game. I do think the Caps technically have 3 playable lines. If Dubois is out, like, they still have 3 playable lines. But give me depth matchups and 2 guys on the top power play unit with Ovechkin, Strome, and Beauvillier.
Yeah, Carlson's been unreal to start the season. Like, maybe not on the score sheet, but like the Caps offense and defense are so much better when he's on the ice.
I was looking at the expected goals numbers. Jacob Chikrin's individual expected goals rate is the same as David Pastrnak and Connor McDavid. What the hell?
Just bombs away from the blue line. Yeah. Carolina Hurricanes with a 3 total heading into Dallas. The Stars also have a 3 total. Carolina on the last leg, literally, of the road trip. They might not have anyone on the blue line left after this one. They're going Jarvis, Aho, Ehlers, Stankov, and Blake Hall. Then the stall line. I don't know if Carrier is back in or not. I think Svechnikov moved up there.
No, they said Carrier and Robinson. I'm just looking now. There's an update while we were on the air. Carrier and Robinson, quote, won't be back anytime soon, so that's not great. Keandre Miller is day-to-day. Shane Gostisbehere and Jacob Slavin are still out. So Miller, Gostisbehere, and Slavin all out on the Carolina blue line.
Yeah, Carolina's blue line without their best defensive defenseman and their 2 best puck movers going into Dallas. Dallas going Robertson, Johnston, Bork, Rantanen, Hintz, Steele, Sagan, Colin Blackwell, Adam Ernie. Detroit Red Wings legend Adam Ernie, but this is a sneaky good spot for Dallas here now. It's like Slavin, you don't really want to be like, oh yeah, I watched the 4 Nations and Slavin is the best defenseman in the defensive defenseman in the world, but he certainly might be. Keandre Miller and Ghost are excellent puck movers. Now they have Mike Riley on the top pair. I can't even pronounce their second pair guy, Charles Alexis Lego, with a rookie. So, like, I think this is a sneaky good spot for Dallas. And it's not like Carolina has elite goaltending. Like, Kochetkov's already out. Freddie Anderson has been fine, but, like, who knows? So, like, I do have some interest here with Robertson, Johnson, Bork at 15,600. 4.5% top 2, 7.5% projected ownership. A little bit of negative leverage there, but nothing egregious. Like, this is a much better matchup than it was a week ago. Like, if Carolina had a full complement of players coming in here, I wouldn't have too much interest in Dallas, especially on an 11-game slate. But without their 3 most important pieces on the blue line, I do have some interest in Johnson, Robertson, Bork. You want to go to Hintz, Rantanen, just because, like, Rantanen just never leaves the ice. Like, he's playing next to McKinnon again. That's fine. But for me, it's Johnson, Robertson, Bork. On the Carolina side, it's probably going back to Blake, Stankov, and Hall. But, like, I without their 2 best puck movers and Slavin, I think I'll wait until they regroup at home. So it's a Dallas game for me.
Yeah. I'm not paying $19,900 for that Carolina top line with all those defensemen missing. Like, I do like Sean Walker and Mike Riley. Like, I am fans, and Nikishins look fine this season. They're still, it's that St. Louis problem. They're still missing half a blue line. And at nearly 20K, like, I'll just go play Montreal or Vegas or something like that. So it would be the second line. I think they're fine as a filler, but I'm not running out to play Carolina. It's one of those things. It's like, when they're healthy, I think Carolina is a legitimate Stanley Cup contender, top 5 team in the league. It's like, if there's going to be a game where they get slammed, it's, the 6th game of a 6-game road trip, missing half your blue line, and you've already played Vegas, Los Angeles, and Colorado this week. Like, you know what I mean? Or in the last week, I should say. So, yeah, out on Carolina, this is a Dallas game for me. Surprisingly, they've started leaving their lines together a little bit. will Carolina's penalty kill hold up without all those defensemen? Like, I mean, not having Gostisbehere for the PK for the power play is one thing. He doesn't penalty kill. Slavin does PK and Miller does PK though, so that is kind of important. The Dallas top line not generating a ton, 53 shot attempts, 2.5 expected goals, but they do get quite a bit of ice time. Rantanen at 21.5 minutes, Hintz at 19. Even Sam Steele's playing 16 minutes a game. Now, a lot of that is penalty kill, but he's still getting minutes. Dallas second line, Robertson and Johnston are both over 20 minutes. Jason Robertson around 20 shot attempts per 60 at 5-on-5. I would probably go back to them, Robertson, Johnston, and Bork. If you want to take out Bork and put in Rantanen or something like that, I think that's fine. Carolina is allowing a lot of power play opportunities against. They're giving the opposition 3.9 opportunities against per game. It's tied for the 7th most in the league. Without Miller and without Slavin, again, a getaway game after a 6-game road trip where this is their 4th game in 8 nights playing their 4th playoff team and 3rd cup contender in a row. I do think it's not a bad spot to get some Dallas in. So I personally have interest in Robertson, Johnston, and Bork just because they've been creating better, but I might take out Bork and put in one of Rantanen or Hintz because they're getting a lot of ice time, and I do think with all the injuries, this is not a bad matchup for Dallas.
Yeah, like Mike Riley, Sean Walker as a third pair on Carolina, excellent. Forcing them into top pair minutes.
Yeah, Mike Riley Sean Walker played like 29 minutes in the last game. Yeah, that guy was playing like 13, 14 minutes at times last year.
Yeah, like when he was on Colorado, he was playing like 14 minutes. In Philly, he was playing over 20, but like, who knows? Los Angeles Kings with a 3.1 total. Heading into Nashville, the Predators have a 2.8. Roman Josi out week to week, not related to his injury last season, which is good news, but not good news. He'll be out for a few weeks. Anze Kopitar back for the Kings tonight. He will be centering Kuzmenko and Kempe. They didn't run any other lines. So, I would imagine Fiala and Byfield are together. It's just a matter of if they keep Joel Armia there or they put Alex Laferriere back there. We'll wait and see. On the Nashville side, they're going Riley, Forsberg, Wood, Stamkos, Bunting, Haula, Evangelista, Svechkov, Yost. We saw this play out last season, right? Without Josi. They're arguably not that much worse defensively without Josi. The problem that they run into is now their offense is going to suck. He is by far their best puck-moving defenseman. He shoots the puck a bunch. It's I didn't have much interest in a Matthew Wood top line anyway. Without Josi, that pretty much takes me out on stacking Nashville. Their power play is going to be anemic now. These lines don't want to play a Hall line, don't want to play a Tyson Yost line, don't want to play a Matthew Wood line, right? So I'm out on Nashville. The Kings are interesting here, and I don't think it matters if it's Joel Armia or Alex Laferriere there. I would prefer Laferriere, but it's the Byfield Fiala line for me. They have been very good together dating back seasons. They have very good numbers with Laferriere. I think they prefer Joel Armia there just because he makes decisions properly. Laferriere is thinking too much. Joel Armia just goes and plays. I think that's the issue there. But regardless of who's there, it's the Byfield line for me. If you want to go to Kempe, Kopitar, Kuzmenko because they're fully correlated, I think that's fine. But it would be Byfield, and I'm out on Nashville.
Yeah, I have no interest in the Preds. I mean, I didn't really have much interest in them anyway. Take Roman Josi out, and I'm out on that. For me, it is a Kings game. Kopitar, Kempe, and Kuzmenko, before Kopitar got injured, they were generating reasonably well. 67 shot attempts, 3.2 goals per 60 at 5-on-5, perfectly correlated on the top power play unit. Nashville's penalty kill, basically middle in the league by expected goals against and shots against. What had been saving them is the only thing that's been saving them this season. It's that, what Thatcher Demko is doing for Vancouver, UC Saros has been doing for Nashville. That's the one thing that kind of worries me, but like I don't have any matchup concerns for that Kings top line. They're only 15,200. So, put them in to that bin with all the other $15,000 to $17,000 lines that are on this slate. I honestly don't mind them here. It's the same. Like I said, it's the same thing with Vancouver. The team is not playing well. They're being bailed out by their goalie, and they can't be bailed out by their goalie every single night. So Kempe, Kuzmenko, and Kopitar is where my interest is. If you want to do like a two-man of like Fiala Byfield, I think that's perfectly fine. Joel Armia, he's 2,600. You don't need a lot from him. If he gets an assist and a shot, you know what I mean? Like that's probably fine. So if you want to throw him into, I think that's okay. But for me, this is a game about the Kopitar line being reasonably priced, perfectly correlated in a very good matchup. I just don't have any interest in Nashville. I think it's a pass for me.
Yeah, agreed. Edmonton Oilers with a 3.4 total heading into Seattle. The Kraken have a 2.6. Edmonton doing things that annoy me. They are going McDavid, Mangiapane, Isaac Howard, Draisaitl, Savoie, Podkolzin, Nugent Hopkins, Roslovic, Henrique. Seattle going Stevenson, Marchment, Tolvanen, Beniers, Eberle, Catton, Wright, Schwartz, Newman. It's like, this is a bad matchup for Seattle. Regardless of what you think about Edmonton offensively right now, they're still good defensively. They have a good penalty kill. The goalies have been a little bit more consistent of late. I don't want to stack Seattle. If anything, I'd go to Beniers, Eberle, Catton, or Wright, Schwartz, Newman. You can throw them into your MME fillers. We'll let the Jake Harris of the world go win with them. I have a hard time getting there. In single entry, I'm not playing a Chandler Stevenson line at 6% against the Oilers. Just not something I'm doing. The other two are fine in MME. Edmonton is interesting. They just look disinterested. Like, I know that's not the right word. It might be the right word. They're just, I don't know. Without Hyman, they don't look great.
I mean, listen, I watched that whole game against Montreal the other night. They got bailed out by the refs. There's a hit by Slafkovsky that I would consider it boarding, and they called it boarding. It's almost never called boarding in the NHL. And then they called it unsportsmanlike on Josh Anderson for shooting the puck after the whistle when Edmonton scored on the power play. Something you see a player do 5 times a game, and they just decide, like, it was the 2 penalties that killed Montreal. Pretty much ran them over for the first 40 minutes. Disinterested, I think, is a good way of putting it. They don't care about the regular season.
Yeah, and that's why, like, normally when we get to an Edmonton game, I'm just like, let's just power play stack and call it a day. I'm not sure that is appropriate here, considering that they're spread out across 4 lines. Very annoying. I think, like, listen, Draisaitl and Podkolzin played a lot together last season. They were very good. They had finishing issues. So do a lot of men. It's fine. But, like, him with Savoie and Podkolzin, 13,800 against the Seattle team that is the definition of mediocrity, I think is fine. Joey Decord in net, he has been very, very good. But it's not like you're spending 19,000 for an Edmonton line here. If you want to go to McDavid, Mangiapane, Isaac Howard, like Isaac Howard is a highly touted prospect. He didn't want to play for Tampa, so they traded him. I'll be honest, like, I just don't have a ton of interest here. The one thing that in the back of my head that worries me is the prices on these lines, because, like, Seattle sucks. So, like, you can get a Draisaitl line for 13,000. You can get a McDavid line for 15,000. I guess you could go McDavid, Draisaitl, Podkolzin or something like that, because that's a line we've seen together at 5-on-5. And if Edmonton gets off to a bad start, you know they're going to mix up their lines. So, like, I'm fine with a 2-man of McDavid, Draisaitl, X. I don't particularly love it, but I think stacking the Draisaitl line here makes some sense as well.
Yeah, Seattle's not taking a ton of penalties this year. 2.6 times shorthanded per game. It's tied for the 5th fewest in the league. The Oilers are in the bottom 10 for power play opportunities. So it's like, and like you said, they're across 4 even strength lines. They're 4 forwards. So like, it's kind of tough to power play stack in that sense. I do think unless it's like 4-0 one way or the other, you're going to see McDavid and Draisaitl playing together anyway. I would probably just do like a McDavid, Draisaitl, Thomasek 3-man and just be done with it. But like just generally speaking, I don't have a lot of interest in this game just because Seattle isn't creating that much offensively this season. I know Jake binked with them. Congratulations again, Jake. But they're really just not doing a whole lot this season. Like with the top line with Berkeley Cat in there, 2.2 expected goals. The Marchment Chandler Stevenson duo, 2 expected goals. Power play's not great. Like to me, this is an MME game. Like if you want to just set Oilers power play stacks to like 5% ownership or 5% of your lineups or something like that, like go ahead. I don't have a lot of interest in single entry here. We'll talk about defensemen in a second. Maybe there's some defensemen to look at, but like for even strength stacking any of the lines here, I swear I would probably be more interested in Seattle than I would in Edmonton. Like a Wright Schwartz 2-man, Wright Newman 2-man, something like that. But I really don't have interest in this game.
Yeah. So found the highest scoring game of the night, without a doubt. Let's talk about defensemen here at the top of the board. Guys over 6K. We have Werenski, Dahlin, Hughes, Bouchard, Hedman. Don't really have a ton of interest in this top range here. Like Hughes is on a terrible team. Werenski price is pretty expensive. Like minutes and shots are still kind of there. Like I think it would be Werenski or Rasmus Dahlin here. I don't really like. I guess Bouchard's fine in Edmonton power play stacks. Hedman's fine in Tampa power play stacks. But I think like I'm going to be living in the mid range and the punts here tonight. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton of. I mean, certainly Zach Werenski, like he does lead the board by overall fantasy points, 13.8. He's the only player on the evening slate tonight over 13. So Werenski is at the top. Quinn Hughes is projecting reasonably well. Like I said, I don't have a lot of interest in Vancouver. I think I'd rather just pay the extra $11K and go play Werenski, or an extra $200 to go play Rasmus Dahlin instead. So I guess it's Werenski or Victor Hedman, just because Anaheim is, kind of a pun here, but Anaheim is kind of playing pond hockey. They're just kind of going back and forth, trading chances. So I guess Victor Hedman would be fine, but I'm probably going to be living in that mid-price range. Jacob Chychrun or John Carlson, certainly. Vince Dunn from Seattle. I don't really like the Kraken, but he's projecting well. I will say Brandon Montour, it looked like he was back. I didn't see any updates on whether he was in the lineup while we were on the air. So Brandon Montour's back. I'd be a little bit less excited about playing Vince Dunn. But Colton Parayko, certainly from St. Louis. I always say it, anytime he's under 5K, I have interest in Colton Parayko. He's 4,500 against Detroit here tonight. Back in Edmonton, the Nurse Wallman guys, like I think Nurse is over 3 block shots per game so far this season. Jake Wallman has looked good since he returned. They're both under 5K, so I think they're both in play. So there's a lot in that mid-price range I don't mind playing. There's some cheap guys as well. Looking back in Anaheim, if you want to correlate with the power play Olin Zellweger. If you just want a guy that might put up some peripherals, I think Jacob Trouba is just fine. I'll say Alex Carrier from Montreal. Like, it's weird. He's a defensive defenseman, but it seems like they're really getting him to jump into the play more. You see him pinching down in the offensive zone and shooting more. So don't mind Carrier at $3,000. Martin Fairbury for Washington. I do prefer playing Chychrun, maybe even Carlson, but without Rasmus Sandin, it's a little thin on the blue line. Don't mind Fairbury. It's 3,300. Esa Lindell for Dallas Carolina's still Carolina, so Lindell might rack up some blocks here for 3,500. Speaking of Carolina, Sean Walker is probably going to have to play between 25 and 30 minutes again. I think he's very much in play. Jalen Chatfield at an even 3K. If you need a more punt-type defenseman, I think it's just fine. Under 3K, Matt Roy from Washington. Certainly Oliver Ekman-Larsson from Toronto on the top power play unit. I'll say Nate Schmidt as well from Utah. Like Utah's second power play unit's getting like 35% of the power play time. That's not nothing. And he's getting like 20 minutes a game. So I don't mind Nate Schmidt under 3K either.
Yeah. And I know we'll get this question because he's already playing 22 minutes a game. Brady Shea. The issue I have with Brady Shea here is in 8 games this season, he has 11 shots on goal and 8 block shots. Like, I don't see that going up because Yossi's out. He's still playing 23 minutes a night as it was. He's fine for the price. Buyer beware. Let's talk about goalies here. I know Cliffy's running out to play Jonas Johansson at 8,500 tonight. Are you? I'm not. Cliffy's not either. I know he's not. Caden Primo at 8,400. Like, please, what are we doing here? If I'm spending up here tonight, I think it would be for Charlie Lindgren because Nick Cousins, like Ottawa has trouble scoring at 5-on-5 anyway. Now they have no Brady Tkachuk. Nick Cousins up on the top line. I think, Charlie Lindgren's fine. I think the Kings starter is fine, whether it's Kemper or Forsberg. Jake Ottinger at 7,900 will ring some bells, check some boxes here. Same with Thatcher Demko. If you're going to the cheap guys here, like Akira Schmid at 7,300 is fine. We'll see who starts for Utah. If it's Vamelka at 7,200, I'd have some interest. And Joey Decord at 7,100, if he starts. They're not playing tomorrow, so I don't see why they wouldn't start. Would be interesting to me. Super cheap guys. Lion won last night. I don't know if Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen's back. If it's Colton Ellis, I wouldn't mind him at 6,800 just because of the price, but I think I wouldn't go lower than Decord.
Yeah, no goalie confirmed yet for Buffalo. I did see they did recall UPL. I don't know if he's going to play tonight or not. They might give Ellis another start. It's always an interesting night when 2 of the top 3 projected goalies are Stuart Skinner and Jonas Johansson. Anyways, Jake Ottinger, Charlie Lindgren for me at the top. Ottinger under 8K, Carolina missing all those defensemen. I do think this is a decent spot for him. So Jake Ottinger certainly just fine. Charlie Lindgren, pretty good spot at home against Ottawa. So those are the 2 guys amongst the more expensive defensemen or more expensive goalies, that I have a little bit of interest in. I think Philip Gustafson is okay. It just worries me that Minnesota's penalty kill is so shaky. I do think there are some cheaper goalies very much worth looking at, like UC Saros. Listen, if Nashville's going to win games, it's going to be because UC Saros is playing well. So I think Saros is certainly in there. Akira Schmid, I think he's got the 6th highest projection for a goalie on the board here tonight, and he's only 7,300. You rarely see that. So Akira Schmid certainly from Vegas as well. So Saros and Schmid are really the 2 goalies that I'm looking at amongst the cheap guys. There's not a whole lot in that mid price range that I really have interest in. Like maybe Joey Decord at 7,100 if you want to stay cheap at home against Edmonton, but I think it's going to be Schmid or Saros for me if I'm paying down.
Yeah, in the mid range, I don't mind the Montreal starter, but
as long as Dobish starts. Did they confirm that yet?
They didn't confirm.
I can't imagine they're going to go back to Montembeault. That last game, it wasn't really Montembeault's fault. Like, honestly, they weren't bad goals. A lot of power play goals, breakaways, redirects, that type of thing. But after giving up 6, I don't think they're going to put him back in.
Yeah. We will be back next week, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. It's the Frozen Frenzy on Tuesday. So there's no games on Monday and Wednesday, basically. But nice little short week for us, considering the only day off in November for us is probably American Thanksgiving. So you're going to see a lot of our beautiful faces. But who are you liking for your hat trick pick?
He's been shooting a lot to start the season, and I don't know why, but let's ride the lightning with Nick Schmaltz.
Yeah. Maybe the coach was like, listen, you need to start shooting the puck or we're going to trade your ass. But I thought you were going to go with Alex DeBrincat there for a second. I will not be going Alex DeBrincat. I will be going to Los Angeles. I know I like UC Saros. For the reasons I like UC Saros, I like the Kings, Kevin Fiala.
Ooh. Well, let's see what happens. That Kings in Nashville, man, that's going to be a hockey game, to say the least.
There will be players playing hockey in that game.
Yeah, for 60 minutes.
Or more. We will see you guys back on Tuesday. Hopefully you don't have to – hopefully you can watch a different game or maybe watch the World Series instead. Go Blue Jays. We'll see you on Tuesday. Good luck, everybody.
Good luck tonight, everyone.